Well, I don't know what the sauce I did, but that did not work at all like I had anticipated.
Gentlemen, welcome back to the Maintenance Bay. Non-Army related video today, but it's a project for, well, it's Friday for us now, after hours. And I don't have a lot else to do to Korea because my college doesn't start up again for a few more weeks. So, what I have here is my Fender Rumble 40 bass amp tore apart. Nothing wrong with the amp, but I got to do a modification to it to make it do what I want. First of all, this amp is amazing. Love it to death. No, Fender is not sponsoring me. I have one subscriber to my channel, so no companies are sponsoring me to do anything. Quarter-inch input, which is standard on all amplifiers. Um, I love this amp because it's got the 1/8" input jack and an 1/8" phone jack. The aux is nice because I can play music through this amp while I play along with my bass, which in every other amp I have, it splits the signals. Whatever it gets first, either your phone's music, it'll play, and then you won't get any of your bass coming through. Or you'll start playing your bass and hit play on your phone, and nothing from your phone is going to come through. This doesn't have that problem. Here's my problem though. I've got the XLR output here, which is nice, but I need another amplifier. This just sends signal out. It doesn't send any real current, just signal. So you got to send this to another amplifier to get that driver, which is going to be this guy, to work. Except I don't have another amplifier, and I'm not going to buy one. So the only thing that this doesn't do that I've always wanted it to do is have a power outlet, and not power like the wall voltage feeding in powers. And I want to drive another driver. So here's the setup. This is how this is going to work. Number one, I had to run a little bit, not math, but I had to look at this to make sure this was going to function the way I want. This Fender driver is 6 ohms. The horn is 4 ohms, and the driver down here, 12-inch driver, is 4 ohms as well. Now those are run series, positive to negative, and back out. So that gives me 8 ohms total for this, which is perfect. Because if this were a 4 ohm setup, this wouldn't work the way I want, because I would be running 4 ohms through this amp, and if it's built with a 6-inch driver, that's telling me this thing is more than likely 6 ohms stable. The problem is, if you run, and I'm not going to get in super great detail, but understand this: if you have an amplifier and it's rated for 6 ohms, 8 ohms, 4 ohms, whatever it is, if you give it less resistance than that and you turn that volume way up, it's going to try and draw the driver, the speakers are going to draw more current than this thing is willing to produce. And what is going to happen is these are on the power amp, the power side of this, but your transistors are going to get permanently damaged, and you'll have to replace them all. Not getting in detail, there's plenty of better explanations on YouTube for that than this, but just understand, if it was a 4 ohm system, that wouldn't work the way I want. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to take one of the speaker input wires here, take the white just because. I'll cut the end, I won't cut the end, I'll cut it midway, strip the shielding, and then move the multimeter. With this switch, we're going to do the positive, we'll call white positive, and I've left this lead white just to keep with that theme, as the input, and then we're going to output one of these two sides. Now, if I click this switch to the left, then what we've done is we've made the circuit between the input and this output. So current's going to flow through that circuit. This one is still isolated. If I leave the switch in the middle, click, there we go. If I leave it in the middle, both of these are isolated, so no speaker would work. If I click it to the right, then now we've closed this circuit, and this one is now open. So I'm going to put this in the back, drill a little hole in the back of my driver, or not the driver, focus. We're going to drill a hole in the back of the cabinet, screw this guy in so I have access to the switch on the back side, and we'll keep everything labeled. So current's going to come in here, And if I flip the switch up, it's going to keep current flowing to the driver that I'm going to reinstall. If I flip the switch down, current will stop going to this driver, and it's going to feed into a 1/4-inch jack, which I'm going to steal out of this side because I'm never going to daisy chain these things. In other words, go input, output, so on and so forth. I don't have any amps that would be, because every time I hook these up, I've got 2 of them here in Korea. I get a 2 ohms load when I do that with both of these. And that's just not going to work. I'd fry any amp that I have. So current will flow out of the little red wire here, out of the black wire on that case, and that's going to flow to the 1/4-inch jack. I'm going to desolder from this setup. I'm not going to need it. It'll still work with 1 1/4-inch input, and that's going to go to the back located next to the switch. From there, that means if I flip that switch on, then that jack is going to become the that jack will be my power feed out, and then I will have my power outlet the way that I want this to work. Typically only higher end amps will have that option. I had a PV TNT 115 that had one. I think that's the only bass amp I've ever had that had that feature, which was really nice. So without paying a premium price, we're just going to make this work as if it were that premium setup. Or this isn't going to work at all the way I plan, and in which case you'll never see the video.
Well, then figured out what I did wrong. Remember I told you there was an audio or an auxiliary input jack in the back of this, and there's a headphone jack in the back of this. If you plug your auxiliary input cord into the headphone jack, which is an output, not an input, you will have no sound, which is exactly what it did. So here's the setup. We have my phone, old one, playing music, and it's sending its audio signal out through the auxiliary cord into the auxiliary input jack. That is running through the amplifier that's built into the Rumble 40. We have power would normally come out, before we mess with this, right, power comes out the white wire and then would go through this driver and then right back out the ground wire. All we've done is we've put this toggle switch in, which takes the voltage coming in, and right now we don't have any closed circuit, so there's no sound. As soon as I toggle this, whoop, there we go. So as soon as I toggle this switch, we've now closed this circuit right here. So voltage is now coming out, flowing over to our driver. That's going through the voice coil. It returns back to our ground clip, right here. Now, you see there's 2 alligator clips on here. That's because we have to share the ground. Now, if I take the switch and flip it in the other direction, we've closed this circuit. So the original circuit's now open and this one's now closed. So we're sending voltage from the same input wire out to our Yamaha R12. Let me show you there we go. So there's the lug that the corn jack I took off from the input module, and yeah, I just clipped the 2 wires right there. I can always put this back in and solder them back together, no problem. So from that jack, we feed our signal in through the voice coil of these 2 drivers, comes back out, back through the wire, and returns back to the ground. So I hope that clarifies how this system works. Alright, so I've done soldered everything in. I gotta clean a little bit of the wood shavings out of there. Not that it would really hamper the performance of any of this, but come on, give me light. There we go. So you can see there's the 1/4-inch jack right here, and then the switch is right there. I put this block of wood in just to give it some lateral support, because it's very difficult to get the switches to mount
the way I wanted to, simply because the wood is so thick and the mounting depth of the threads is so thin, and my drill is not gonna fit in there to make a bigger bore for the switch to slide into, or for the backside for the nut to go into. It just wasn't going to work that way. So super glue to the rescue, and everything's in there playing fine. I don't foresee any of this is going to fall apart. Every connection I soldered together has 2 layers of heat shrink on it, just for good measure. Because once I put something together, I don't take it. Oh, I guess my mistake. Forgot to solder the ground together. And there's gonna be 2 big pieces of heat shrink will go on that one. But as of right now, everything is working exactly as we would want it to. If I reach down below, toggle the switch, you see our little driver gets its power, and our big one shuts off, and we'll go back, and we're back to the Yamaha. Alright, so final product, and everything's back together. So brief recap, all we did was added the toggle switch to go. Right now we're on the main driver up here. I flip it, now we're on the big driver down here. In this particular step, it would have made more sense to make this the speaker in this, because it's up, and that one down. But I can always go back and change that later. I'm actually really, really happy with this, because, and this probably isn't going to work as well. Again, if we put it in the middle, then nothing happens. So yeah, could not be happier with this little amp now. Definitely, if you've been looking for a new bass amp, this one will suit you just fine.